From the Nillis Law Firm Studios. I'm lucky enough to work with a guy that covered old-time hockey, Eddie Shore. I think my good friend Scott Taylor covered the hockey games back in the day when Eddie Shore played. He's probably screaming at me right now and will be kind of angry that I made that kind of a comment. However, this is Thursday night. This is Game on Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO. We look forward to doing a couple more shows before we wrap up this season. And we put together a pretty good show this week, my friend, good Scott.
Actually, to be honest, Eddie Shore was a rookie when I was in my 15th season covering.
Man who can take a good poke. That's awful. That's awesome indeed. Well, we
can only be so old. The NHL didn't start till 1917. You can only be so old.
Yeah, that's true. And back in the day when the Kenora Thistles won the Stanley Cup, and I think that was like 1918 or somewhere in that ballpark.
The Winnipeg Victorias won the Stanley Cup.
Winnipeg Victorias, and yet the Maple Leafs haven't won it since when? 1967. And I watched it on TV.
And with all due respect, although I'm not sure after 55 years there is a lot of respect left, they're not going to win it this year either.
Oh, deep thoughts. We will.
I mean, come on. If you've been watching the National Hockey League,
yeah, which we have
right now, you have to be in love with either Tampa or Carolina, and either the Wild or Colorado.
And the Wild is the conversation we'll have with one of our guests today, and that'll be Pat Micheletti. He'll be joining us shortly. Pat at PatMick2626 covers college hockey. St. Cloud State is one of his big coverages over the course of the hockey season. So we'll visit it with both St. Cloud State and their inability to get to that Frozen Four. He also covers Minnesota State Mankato quite nicely and has good background. His son went to University of Minnesota State, Mankato. So those two now are kind of probably prodding each other back and forth. Of course, Pat Mick having played for the Golden Gophers. And the Frozen Four next week, those two face off right out of the gate. Two very, very good hockey teams. And the other semifinal will be the University of Michigan versus the University of Denver. So you can follow us on Twitter at TravisGDunn1 and at STaylor Sports. Paul Dick will also be joining us in the third segment. And Scott, this guy's has worked with a lot of players that have developed into very good college players and then future professional players. He has had a number of those U.S. players come up to Steinbach, Manitoba, and play for the Steinbach Pistons.
Every team in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League before COVID, and now we're at the point of after COVID, so next season, every team is allowed 6 U.S. imports. Steinbach is a team that has had a lot of those imports and a lot of players that have done extremely well. Of course, one went to UND and became a captain, I believe, and ended up with the Dallas Stars, young Mr. Smith. So he's done a remarkable job of training guys for college hockey in the United States. And if you know anything about Paul at all, and we'll go back to pre-COVID and forward to post-COVID, he's a guy that every year brings his junior hockey team to the Ralph. They do a tour with Brad Berry. He shows them what UND hockey is all about, what US college hockey is all about, and is probably the biggest promoter of the US college game in Manitoba. And I always like to talk to Paul about it. He's a guy who played in Europe for a lot of his career as a player. He was a tremendous hockey player himself, although his NHL career was extremely short, like really, really short. Mm-hmm. But he had a wonderful career as a European player and understands the importance of getting a degree to go with your hockey. And that's why he points a lot of his players, see Reese Gaber, to the University of North Dakota.
Absolutely. We'll visit with him about opportunities and how you would get in contact with him if you're looking for that opportunity, whether you're a North Dakotan, a Minnesotan, trying to get north of the border. It could be a South Dakota or even a Montana, because our broadcast signal does carry that distance. The opportunities are there, and hopefully he'll share that good information with. We're waiting for Pat Micheletti to join. But while we're waiting for Pat, Scott, the Winnipeg Jets won a big game last night in overtime. A must win. And what they're saying, they can only lose 2 games the remainder of the season. Odds are that's not going to happen.
The odds are it's not. I think they've done a remarkable thing getting themselves back into it. As I look at the standings just below me here now, they are 2 points out of that last wild card spot. Granted, they have played far too many games, as the Vegas Golden Knights have played far too many games. You look at Dallas at 65 and Winnipeg at 68. It's going to be pretty tough. But to be honest, they were a team that was down, out, dead, finished, and have won 5 of 6, and they won a lot.
After that, and he played them all, and he's played every one, and they're 11-1 in their last 12. I thought he had to be really good this past weekend, especially against UMass initially. You know what? The guys love him, and when you really enjoy your goaltender, not that they didn't for Jack LaFontaine, but they really, really like this kid. And I really think when LaFontaine left, it kind of turned Minnesota around. They came together a lot tighter, and they really played hard for this guy, and they were better in their own end. And I think, I think that was kind of a turning point, at least from my perspective, watching them.
And given the consequences of Bob Moskow's son's situation last summer, who was tragically killed in a car accident, and everything else that brought this team together, it seems to be maybe the stars are aligning for the right reasons.
Well, you know what? Yeah, you get to this. You guys have been to a Frozen Four. Travis, for you, a Final Four.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it wasn't the Frozen back in the
right,
days.
Scott, I had to get that little dig in. And was it 79 or what? Yeah, I think 79.
Yeah. 1979,
anyway,
the Golden Gophers. Neil Broughton scored the winning goal.
I digress.
That's okay. That's okay.
But whenever you get to a Frozen Four like this, you're going to see great games. You're going to see great plays. You have great players in there that make terrific plays. And when you hockey games, you need luck. You need that goaltending. I just think we're going to be in for a treat a week from Thursday, a week from today.
That's Pat Mickley, the voice of Pat Micheletti. Pat, and you can follow him on Twitter at PatMick2626. And yes, but fortunately in 1980, I was on a team that won a national championship and did get a ring. So and that was because of Phil Sykes and Doug Smale. So we digress there. We'll continue to move forward.
See, we could talk about those teams, because I remember those teams very, very well. And
shows how old you are.
I mean, phenomenal teams and great players, great guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and now we transition to one of the best traditions now that has become in the National Hockey League. And Scott, I think you'll agree with me, the first skate as a professional. This week, were you at the Minnesota Wild game when Noah Cates made his first jaunt as a Philadelphia Flyer?
I was not. I had the night off, and I took the night off, but I watched it on TV and I saw the lap, and Noah, had a great career at Minnesota Duluth under our good friend Scott Sandelin, and it was good, nice to see him make his debut at the X too. A lot of memories there for him.
You talk about Scott Sandelin, it just made me think of something right now. You got Brad Berry coaching, got Sandelin coaching, and next year you're going to have Rick Zombo.
Yes,
almost that entire defensive core is now coaching Division I hockey in the NCAA. What does that tell you about A, the growth of NCAA hockey, and B, how good those defensemen were?
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? In a lot of credit goes to Dean Blaze, Gino Gasparini. They taught those guys taught those guys the game and how to play it right, how to be a good college player, how to act professionally. Everything involved, because you don't get to that level unless you have those qualities. And I'm really happy for Rick. I think, listen, the more that we can grow the game, the better. Bring it on, bring more teams on, because there's a lot of great players out there, as you guys very well know, and it'll get more competitive. And I think it's wonderful. And all three, who I played against, all three, and we had our nights, but the utmost respect also. You compete against each other and your buddies after the game.
You got that right. Hey, Pat, can you hang a few more minutes? We're going to take a quick break. We got to pay some bills. We come back, we'll carry on the conversation with Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn. That's Pat Micheletti. You're listening to Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Hockey on a Thursday evening in Fargo, North Dakota. This is the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. The Nilles Law Firm Studios host this each and every week. And the Nilles Law Firm, well, it was established in the early 1900s. The Nilles Law Firm provides legal services in more than 10 areas of practice, including business and corporate law, estate planning, wills and trusts, probate, commercial litigation, adoption services, as well as real estate. A division of Nilles Law Firm is Northern Title, which provides complete closing and escrow services along with insurance policies for all types of real estate transactions in North Dakota as well as Minnesota. Call Nilles Law Firm at 701-237-5544 or look them up on the World Wide Web at nilleslaw.com. And our guest we carry on the conversation with from our Nilles Law Firm studio, Pat Micheletti, a Minnesota Golden Gopher back in the day. And Scott, you must have a question. Fire away.
Yeah, I do. Because we were talking as we went out about how tremendously large the NCAA hockey programs are becoming. And we're getting more and more teams every year because there are more young people with an opportunity and the skills to play. I look at that Mankato roster and I see players from Canada, Europe, and from the United States, from Florida, Texas, all the way to Alaska. It's the most diverse team I've ever seen. And that to me is the living proof about the growth of hockey around the world and the growth of the NCAA to get that many kids from that many different places. That's not an old-fashioned Minnesota school that had Minnesota, North Dakota kids.
Right.
That's a school that has recruited from all over the world to build one of the best programs in the country.
Well, and why they're so successful is that, I've had this conversation with Tom Serratori, with Mike Hastings, with Brett Larson, with Scott Sandlin. Listen, when you're talking the cream of the crop, and there are a cream of the crop, and this is nothing against any of the other schools, but tradition is tradition, and North Dakota has it, Minnesota has it, Michigan has it, Wisconsin has it, Boston College, Boston University. These are the big kahunas, right? And they're going to get first crack at the top guys. And these guys know, right, that, okay, they're not the number one draft picks. We're not going to get those guys, but there's some good players out there and we got to find them. And in the case of Minnesota State, Todd Connaught, who's their assistant coach, is one of the most recognized associate head coaches, assistant coaches, whatever, in the country for recruiting. He does a phenomenal job. And And in fact, when Bob Motzko took the job at Minnesota, he offered Todd Connaught the job to come to Minnesota as his assistant coach. And Todd ended up staying with Mike Hastings. But, these guys really, they work extremely hard. They have a niche of who they feel will fit into their program. They store them away for a couple years to get, bigger, stronger, faster, whatever. And it's a formula for success for their programs. And it's really cool because, some guys develop later than others, as we know. But there's a lot of really, really good players out there, and it's great for college hockey.
And Scott, one thing we have to realize is that we will be creating a league, and Pat Micheletti will be the commissioner of this league when it's just all Minnesota, and will include University of North Dakota in that. So the league will be Bemidji State, North Dakota, Duluth, Mankato, Minnesota, or University of Minnesota, of course, as well as the guys just up the road in St. Thomas. And who else are you going to throw in there?
Wisconsin, got to throw them in.
Got to throw Wisconsin there too, and that conversation has been had a number of times. Scott, Pat gets that question all the time on the big guy with the big guys down in Minneapolis.
And let me tell you, and nothing. You just wanted to get my blood up, right?
Yeah,
because
of course.
we have a lot of smart people in this game, highly intelligent, far more intelligent than I, and I will talk to these coaches until I'm blue in the face, and lay it all out there, and they're all in agreement. And they all talk about it when they're having a beer, during the summer, but nothing ever happens. First of all, we have to realize that we are a regional sport. We're not college football, college basketball, women's college basketball, or, and I can go on and on, right? And we could feel, now North Dakota doesn't have this problem, but we've had a problem in attendance with some of the schools. And why? I don't know. Put your finger on it. Pricing. Yeah, who knows? That would all be solved if we were playing each other every weekend. And it would be, you'd have a TV contract. You would have every building filled to the max. You'd have great competition. And, need I say more?
Absolutely not.
And Scott? It drives me crazy.
We can tell.
Hey, the other team they could bring in is Augustana.
Yeah.
Who's going to be their head coach?
Well, that'll be interesting. The gentleman I just mentioned, Todd Connaught, has been rumored heavily to be the first head coach at Augustana. That's, talk. So nothing etched in stone, but they're going to be building I think a 5,000 seat arena, perfect for college hockey, brand new. And so it won't take a school like that again, because, and listen, he recruits heavily in the USHL. It's right in his backyard. They're the USHL in Iowa and South Dakota. And so I think that would be the fit. And, I can't wait till they get started.
Well, Pat, your time has run out. We appreciate it. Sorry to get your blood boiling.
I wanted more time.
You wanted more time?
I wanted more time, guys.
Well, can you come back next week and do it
again? Back next week. Anytime you guys need me, for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, well, next week, because of Twins baseball, by the way, Pat, Scott, next Thursday, the Twins openers at 3:10 on a Thursday. Do you think we'll have a show at 6:00 on a Thursday night after that? I don't think so. No. So we will do this next. We'll just tell you what, Pat. We'll be talking. We'll be incommunicado with you here shortly.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, bet. Pat Mick 2626. And with that, we open the gate, we shove him out, we bring the other guy in, and that's Gord Tummelson with the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, the goaltender coach, former National Hockey League goaltender with the Winnipeg Jets, with our sponsored content for the week. And man, oh man, your season's been a busy one, Coach. You're now in the recruiting phases, right?
Yeah, we dropped the puck last weekend, and the next day we went to recruiting. So it does not end. And for good reason, we went to recruiting. We had a dismal season in all three teams. We have added a fourth team, as you well know, U18 males. I can say that our recruiting program has already identified 3 players from North Dakota, 2 from Minnesota, 2 from South Dakota, and 2 from Wisconsin. So we're already sort of on target here for people in your area. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but we know that you've got good players there, and we've been talking to some of them.
I'm thrilled to death that your presence here on the Mighty 790 has helped you to recruit players to make that the A1 program that it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, COVID kicked the butts, and we haven't been able to get too many kids up from the States, and so now we've locked in on a bunch of good players, and we're just hoping that they'll take a chance on us, because we're certainly prepared to take a chance on them.
To update those who question getting across the border, as of April 1st, which, by the way, is tomorrow, after this 5 months of winter that we've now endured. By the way, you guys didn't get the snow we got. We got 4 inches here and 9 inches just east of us. But that'll make the grass that much greener when the sun does finally come out. But going across the border now does not mean the COVID test and wait and then go across and have a COVID test to come back, correct? You can go across the border as long as you have that thing saying that you have had the vaccine.
Yeah, the border pass gets you through, so that's a good thing. And that's going to all fall off as time goes by anyway. But yeah, that's what's needed. You're right.
So first of all, I'm going to correct Travis, because I know how important correct information is. We're never an NHL goaltender. You're a World Hockey Association goaltender. As young as you look.
That's true.
You didn't play after 1979.
Yeah,
that's correct. I stuck around for a while with the Jets, and that was fun. But no, I did not make the NHL. But we made the NHL pay a lot more for the guys that did make it there, and that's what matters. Everybody's getting paid fair now.
And Scott,
and that's what the WHA was for, right?
That's right. Exactly what it was for. It just get certain teams into the NHL and get players paid properly.
So it's pretty quiet right now in the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy because of spring break, right? Easter break, is that kind of falling right now? And so it's quiet. So your focus right now is the recruiting part of it. So if someone in this area, North Dakota, Minnesota, or South Dakota is part of our broadcast area, as well as Southern Manitoba, wants to get in touch with you and talk about, developing as a goaltender. It's important to have that goaltender focus practice every day, and you allow that. How do they get in touch with you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One, I'm sure there's information's on KFGO. I know you've got it there, so that's good.
Yep.
And certainly pilotmounthockeyacademy.com. That'll get you the homepage and everything you need to know about hockey. And the one thing that's most interesting is two key points here in our recruiting program. We lead off with 400 hours of potential ice time. That's so much ice time. If a kid can't develop, a lot of it's personal and private, and plus games and practices. My God, 400 hours in 10 months of hockey. That's a pretty good deal, and a great education. We've got the classes are 15 to 20 people in the class. Most of the high school is now going to be filled up with the 80 kids from the hockey academy, about 30 or 40 kids from the surrounding area annually. So, we've got a real fix on education and how we make that move and how we make that work for kids, and lots and lots and lots of ice time along with great coaching.
I'm reading a story right now in the brand new edition of Game On Magazine called The Small Town Paradise.
There you go.
Small Town Hockey Paradise.
And Scott, how would you find that online?
Oh, at gameonhockey.ca, and go up to the top right corner and hit login and sign up. It's free. You can read all the magazines there. And this is the latest one, Hockey Small Town Paradise.
And that's exactly what if as a parent looking at that, if you want to read a great article, Scott's got it laid out there on gameonhockey.ca. You can read the article about the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, what they offer. But I tell you what, as a kid that never got enough ice time, 400 hours, oh man, I would have been on that ice. Oh, that's hockey heaven, isn't it?
It's personal ice time. It's in the rink, from the new dorms that are going up, the $2 million new dorms going up. It's 200-yard walk to the arena, and it's easy, except when there's a 400-mile-an-hour wind. That's usually in the middle of January. But you guys know what that's all about in North Dakota. So there you go.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's all we've had for a long time is a lot of wind. Hey, Gord, we really appreciate you jumping on board. Thanks for sharing that great story. The interest has been garnered from the program that you're doing each and every week down here, and we appreciate the support, and we appreciate getting a few butts in your seats, I guess, right? That's the way to put it, right, Scott?
Well, yeah, exactly. And the important thing is now that the border's open, kids from North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, you can go to Pilot Mound, get in touch with the folks there. Rod Collins is the GM and director of player personnel. Rod's one of the greats. Of course, his daughter Delaney is the ambassador for hockey for the Nashville Predators. So you're going into a real hockey community, full-time hockey people. Do you have a coach yet, Gordy, for your U18 team?
We haven't got that signature yet, but we're hoping for it before the weekend. So we're maybe 24 hours away, and we'll be bragging about that pretty soon.
That'd be great to brag about that next week. And with that, we'll let you exit stage right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, well, Paul Dick from the Manitoba Junior Hockey League focus this week, Steinbach Pistons. He's got some more spots for Canadian or for American hockey players to go. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, you're listening to Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn. Paulie Lyons is over there. He's running the board. He's making sure this runs smoothly. You're listening to Game on Hockey on 790 KFGO and 1. Mellow music as we go into a Thursday evening in Fargo, North Dakota. You're listening to Game on Hockey, a little more rambunctious than the music. The game of hockey is a wonderful one, and we do it all hockey season long. This Thursday, of course, this is a Thursday. Next week, I'm guessing, and I'll tell my friend Scott this, that we will be doing the show probably Friday. Minnesota Twins open the season next Thursday at 3:10. I don't anticipate there'll be any time for us to do a hockey show, so it makes more sense for us to lead into the Wild game next Friday, but also make sure to stay tuned at 6:45, the pregame show, Minnesota Wild versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's going to be a rock'em sock'em robot action down there in the big city of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Again, this is Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn, and we appreciate you listening. This segment is sponsored by the Golf Center in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Been in business for over 35 years, custom fitting for Ping, PXG, Titleist, and TaylorMade. You still have time. We have snow on the ground. It's going to be a couple of weeks before that stuff is all gone and courses open up. But you can get that new set of golf clubs all set up and a putter to go with that with some custom putter fitting as well. They also have SkyTrack so you can work on that launch monitor and the spin and all that fun stuff to be a little bit better golfer. And that's the goal when you pick up the clubs every year, to get to be a little bit better each and every day. The Golf Center in Grand Forks is located at 3001 South Columbia Road in Grand Forks, or call 701-775-0019. Brian Leach and the guys, they'll take great care of you. And I'm anticipating that the head coach of the Steinbach Pistons has been to the Golf Center in Grand Forks. Everyone goes there. It's the greatest place in the world to get golf clubs. But with that, we introduce Paul Dick, the head coach of the Steinbach Pistons of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Scott, fire away.
Hey, Paul, you should be up 2-0 in your first round of the playoffs, but you're 1-1. Tell us how it's going.
Well, yeah, 2-0 would be our preference, and but that's playoff hockey, and it truly is the second season. And we had a good start to game one of the series. We're up 3, and I think the guys felt like we were off to the races a little bit, and we gave them a little bit of life. And in game 2, we paid the price for that. So thankfully, it's a 7-game series. We've got game 3 here tomorrow night, and we're looking to rebound.
This is the first series of the MJHL playoffs, I anticipate, at this point. Obviously haven't followed it a lot down here. We don't get a lot of MJHL action having played there, but the first round, a lot more rounds to go, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that's definitely our desire. And all the series here are 7-game series or best of 7. So, there's a potential for a lot of hockey. And this year, the season stretched out a little longer with the absence of the Anavet series, which we typically, the champion from Manitoba contends or plays the champion from Saskatchewan for the Anavet Cup. And then that team earns the right to the national championship, which is now the Centennial Cup. So, a lot of hockey left. I think the Centennial Cup plays right up until and towards the end of May.
You have in the past been a great ambassador for NCAA hockey. You have sent a lot of players down to the NCAA Division 1 and 3. Tell us a little bit about why you think so highly of the NCAA, because there's also a lot of players that have played for the Steinbach Pistons who have played in the Western Hockey League. But
right.
you have had a number of graduates and players that aren't graduates yet leave your team and go down and play NCAA hockey. Tell us your thoughts and why you promote that to your players.
Well, I think it's a great path. First of all, I think not everybody is ready for major junior at 16, 17 years old, and the majority of the players that we have need that extra time. And I think we feel like after 2-3 years with us, they're developed at a stage where there's a new opportunity ahead of them. And the only one really is college hockey. And but what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of players starting to identify this path a little earlier. I think in Manitoba, there's been, the majority of our good young players typically have gone on to play Western Hockey League. We're starting to see a little bit of a shift, and definitely it's piquing their interest. A young player like Jaden Perron actually went to the USHL as a 16-year-old, is probably the top player in his age group in our province. So, I think they're starting to explore the options a little more. We just, whatever path the player chooses, we support that. We've had players go to the Western League. We just ask them to be patient and select the path that's best for them. And, if they want to be hockey players when they're 24, 25 years old, look at the path that might be the best path for them. So, and that is a great one. And so we've been very fortunate. We've had guys that have wanted to go that direction, that have been motivated. We've played a small role in getting them there, and it's exciting to see them still playing and excelling. And it's just fun to watch that development unfold.
You talk about someone who may have developed quite well. I'm having Reese Gaber actually on my Saturday morning show Around the Rink. By the way, for those who listen to this show, 740 The Fan, 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, Reese Gaber will be joining me to talk about the season past and, of course, the season moving forward. You talk about developing those kind of young men. You're on the lookout for those kind of young men all the time, obviously. Now you're in the middle of the playoffs. How much on the recruiting side are you looking now for the future? Because that's always in a coach's mind, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. When you wear the coach GM hat, you're always looking forward, right? And that's the nature of junior hockey. And, we typically have players on average, 2 years, right? So the turnover is really quick. And, there's times where you lose a player unexpectedly. Maybe the Division 1 school might bring him in a year early. And now this year we have a 19-year-old that committed to St. Thomas. He's leaving earlier than expected. We have another 19-year-old. We're not sure exactly, if he's going to be with us next year or not. And then 4 other players that have committed to D1 that we have to replace now too. So yes, you're in the playoffs. Your focus is winning and winning a championship, but you've always got to be one step ahead. So, before you know it, the fall's here and you want to enjoy summer, but it's, the recruiting starts, sometimes a year in advance.
Now, you've had a number of outstanding players go down there. Tweak my memory a little bit. Gaber, of course.
Sure.
Did you have
Cole
Goulet?
Smith. We had Darby Gula, with for UND fans. Cole Smith was a player that was with us for 2 years and went down after his last year with us, and obviously had an impactful career with UND, and then has played 8 games, I believe, this season with the Nashville Predators. So Drew Warad just signed with Grand Rapids. The American League, had a tremendous career with Western Michigan. Gula was in Bemidji. And we've had a number of guys that have gone on and not only are playing the game, but excelling at it. So it's great to see them having an impact at that level too.
Who's going on from this group?
From this group currently?
Yes.
We've got Braden Burney just committed to Alaska. Zach Powers also going to Alaska. Our goalie, Alaska Fairbanks, I should specify. Our goalie, Will Hambley, committed to Western Michigan. Jack Rogers committed to St. Cloud. Quentin Pepper committed to St. Thomas. Am I missing somebody here? Is that 6?
I think that's 5 or 6. Yeah.
So there's 6 in this group. So it's a good group. You know what? They're very competitive and they have the qualities. When you see guys and when you first start, you're like, I think this guy can play D1. And when you have a guy go on and you're like, okay, it gives you a little affirmation that you're on the right path with what you see and some of the qualities and of course the level of play that's required to play at that level. It's a tremendous level of hockey, and so it's very difficult to make it, but it's been very rewarding for us, the staff, and I think for our community, to see guys reach that level.
You listen to Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn, each and every Thursday, sometimes Fridays, sometimes 6 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock. But we deliver hockey conversations each and every week. The voice you're hearing is Paul Dick, the head coach of the Steinbach Pistons of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. And I think it's important for people out there to know that there are opportunities north of the border for young men. Cole Smith, a classic example, Brainerd, Minnesota. Maybe wasn't ready to play at any college level or even play at the USHL level. Tell us what his intestinal fortitude level was to get to where he is now, but how you helped develop him to get there.
Yeah, well, it was off the charts. I mean, Cole is all about will and just incredible mental strength and desire and compete. And when you watched him play, it was very evident that's his DNA. And there's no quitting him. He loved the physical part of the game, played with some edge, relentlessness on the forecheck. But there's no question that Cole was not ready for the USHL as a 19-year-old. Went to a camp, was close to making it at 20, came back to us as a 20-year-old. So, I love this story because sometimes players at 18, 19, they think it's too late. And so he's been and he will continue to be a great example for us that we share with players coming in that, make the most of these last 2 years, because it's definitely not too late. And, everybody's in a hurry in today's game. It's a rush to get to the next level. And Cole had a lot of patience, and he's still playing that game where, he went to, spent his 4 years at UND, and this is his second year pro. And now in his second year, he's cracked the lineup in Nashville 8 times. So, it takes time. And once players recognize that, just to make the most out of every day and, train in the summers, when you see Cole's training program, I think some guys might be fearful of, if that's what it takes, I might not want to do it. But for some guys, it's truly necessary to get there.
Now you have an opportunity. The Manitoba Junior Hockey League, I believe, allows 6 imports per team. Is that correct? 6 American.
That's correct.
And before COVID, the MJHL and U.S. College Hockey had a really, really close relationship. You guys were going down to camps down there and recruiting players. You still have a couple of Americans, I believe, on your roster.
We do, yes. In fact, we have one from just outside of Grand Forks, Josh Nelson, and then we have a player from Long Island. Jack Rogers is actually from Long Island, New York. That's probably the furthest east we've ever had a player from in the U.S. We've had one from California before. We've had one from Texas before. So they come from everywhere, just like you mentioned earlier with some of the college programs. We try to cast a pretty wide net. And then we have another one from Vermont. So first player that we've ever had from Vermont.
So for kids in the U.S., they finished high school hockey. The universities didn't come running to their door to give them scholarships. But there are opportunities for 2 more years of junior up here after they've finished high school to play their 19 and 20-year-old seasons in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. That opportunity exists. How would a good player out of a very good school in the U.S. who didn't get that opportunity, didn't have the pounding on the door from Minnesota or Wisconsin or North Dakota, get in touch with you and so you can have a look at them?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of ways. I mean, players now in today's day and age, a lot of them do have advisors. So, we're fairly well connected with some of them, and it's their responsibility to provide some opportunities and look at some options for the players. So that's been a tool that a lot of players have opted to use. I mean, the internet is a great resource now. I get emails virtually every day from players across our country, in the US as well. Maybe sending some video clips and their elite prospects, stats and things of that nature, but it puts them on the radar. I read every single one of those, and you have to filter through them. Obviously, you can't look too deeply into all of them, but if somebody piques your interest, you wind up calling their coach. So we've brought in players that in that manner before. So that's one of them. There's different events. We go out and scout a little bit. We have a great tool today in junior hockey is Instat, where we can literally punch in a player's name anywhere in North America, and the odds are you can find video footage on the player. So, and not just a full game, you can pull up just his shift. So it's an efficient way to do it. And so that's been a valuable tool for us and one that we take advantage of.
With the tremendous thirst for the game of hockey and is growing exponentially, whether it be in Arizona or whatever, we see with Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, where how they've had, people from North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota now reaching out to the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy for the opportunity to have good schooling. We talk about Manitoba Junior, the Pistons in Steinbach, Manitoba. Talk about that community, the schooling that comes with it as well, and the opportunities to live within that community.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of the things that we feel makes it pretty special here in Steinbach, and we've got a tremendous group of billets that host our players every year, and they become like family here. We do have players that come from out of province that some are completing their high school. We actually have a player from Quebec who French is his first language and has, I wouldn't say he's perfected English yet, but he's taken it to another level, just being integrated in an English school here. So, yeah, and then our community plays such a role in the experience. I think when guys leave here, that's the one thing that they talk about. And I tell the guys, hockey's hockey, and it's a great sport, and you're going to have memories on the ice, but the majority of them are going to be with your teammates and off the ice, and then also in our community. So they realize that quite quickly when they get here, connecting with the youth, with minor hockey, getting involved in the schools and volunteering in different capacities. So that's truly what makes it special. It's the people that you meet along the path.
And also a rink that puts 3,000 to 4,000 people in the stands every game too, right?
Well, we don't have the biggest building, but we do have a great environment here. And, post pandemic, I suppose, post restrictions, I guess would be a better way to say it. We're getting that back. We're getting that life back in the building. And, we've had some youth in our community that haven't watched us play for a while. So, in the last couple of months, they've been coming back, and some for the first time. So it's exciting. I know the guys had heard about the support that we get here, and that definitely makes it appealing. It's just like college hockey. Everybody knows which barns are packed and which ones are loud and which ones have energetic fans and are passionate about the game. So every hockey player wants that environment.
If you're in the States and you don't know about Steinbach, I think people should know that it's a community of what, 10 to 12,000 now?
Well, we're growing. I think we're approaching 20. We're probably I think the last census was 17 some. So it seems to be growing, but yeah.
45 minutes from Winnipeg. You're 45 minutes from the big city.
Absolutely. Yeah. 30 minutes probably from, South St. Vital, right? So that's the one thing. Our guys can come here. We can play hockey and you can go do things in Winnipeg. You can watch NHL hockey in Winnipeg. And so it's a little bit of both, right? We have some team building events. Sometimes we do, in the big city as well, but small town living with the ability to have some big city exposure.
Well, but people may not understand in the U.S. the type of community Steinbach is is it not still one of the wealthiest communities in the country per capita? I mean, it's a really nice place to live.
You know what? It is. There are a fair amount of affluent people here. There's a mix, obviously, and we have our, share of people that have needs as well. But there's no question when you come into the community, you see it's very, very clean. I think our parents notice that people take pride in their yards and their vehicles are clean. And, our main street, our curb appeal of the city is something that makes typically it makes a very positive first impression.
Well, as they say in Winnipeg, it's worth the trip to Steinbach. I grew up there, so I've heard that many, many times. Only that's to go buy a car. Hey, Paul Dick, really appreciate you joining us today. Spreading the word of opportunities for youngsters right now. Looking for that junior opportunity. Steinbach Pistons, great place to go. Great coach. You'll get exposure. You'll get trained at the top of the game's level. And we sure appreciate you joining Scott and I on the big show today.
Travis, Scott, my pleasure. Anytime. Thanks, guys.
That's Paul Dick. And that's the fun thing you get to do the people you get to meet, Scott, in this game and helping develop young men and young women become better hockey players. Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting. I was talking to Pat Micheletti. Of course, his son went to Mankato, Minnesota State. And we were talking about the fact that Aaron Asham, I don't know if you remember Aaron Asham, played about 15, 16 years in the National Hockey League for a lot of different teams. A general manager once called him the greatest survivor in the game. He could play any kind of hockey you wanted him to play. If you needed a fighter, he'd be a fighter. If you needed a guy to score, he'd play the power play for you. Aaron Asham was a guy who could do it all just to keep a job in the NHL. His daughter is probably one of the best 17, 18-year-old players in our province. She's chosen Mankato, Minnesota State Mankato, to play her college hockey. Yeah. And I think we see it both men and women now, here in Manitoba, right across Canada, that the NCAA is a very, very good option to the Western League. And I'm one of these firm believers that if you're a guy like Nolan Patrick who's going to play in the NHL, you go to the Western Hockey League and learn to be a National Hockey League player. But if you're Cole Smith and you need a couple extra years, play for the Steinbach Pistons, go to U.S. college hockey, then get to the National Hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, my friend. And another Thursday comes to an end. Another Game on Hockey comes to an end. A big thanks to our guest, Pat Micheletti at PatMick2626, Steinbach Pistons head coach Paul Dick. We do this each and every week. Next week, we don't know who we're going to have yet, but we'll have someone great on, and Scott and I will entertain you for an hour of great hockey conversation. I hope you passed your COVID test tomorrow. Get back to Florida where it's warm.
I'm going back on Sunday, so I got to pass the test on Saturday morning. It's the only reason I'm not joining you. I got to do a COVID test at 9:20.
Oh, well, enjoy the trip. We'll talk to you next week. You've been listening to Game on Hockey for Poly Alliance. Scott Taylor, I'm Travis Dunn. Have a wonderful evening. This is from the Nillis Law Firm Studios. Good night.